about how to make a super hook whenever you don't have that thing that you can claim as your social proof. Okay? You haven't earned it yet. I'm going to break it down into 3 ways. Number 1, you can use a realistic study. Okay? You can use a real study to communicate what you want to communicate. I'm going to give an example after all 3 of these. Number 2 is you can reference somebody famous in the niche. You can reference an expert. I was listening to this podcast that Alex Hormozi was on, and he talked about this. This is a great option. It's a good idea to provide your own personal take on it rather than just repeating. Get to that later. And the third one, this one's a little bit trickier, but if you can somehow strike it perfect where you communicate in a universal emotion, where the viewer has felt something so strongly that if you can name it, they're going to trust you. Because it's like, oh my gosh, I've been feeling this for so long. You called it out. So for me, for example, in the content niche, a lot of content creators get a big following, but they have poor follower quality because they built it with entertainment, jokes, kind of these easy ways to get the follower quality. Now they're struggling to monetize. They haven't had anybody tell them that. And so if I say that, they're like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what I've been experiencing. That's the third way to get your social proof. Okay, so I'm going to break this into an example with none other than a carrot analogy. Okay, I did my research this time. Let's say I am a gardener creator. Okay, I'm a gardener creator, and I am trying to explain to you how carrots need consistent moisture. But the weird part is they germinate longer. Okay, so I got to have moisture going for longer than normal. The way that you want to do this is you want to lay a cardboard over your soil. It's going to keep the moisture in. It's going to keep the soil from crusting. Okay, that's going to be the thrust of my video. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to give you a super hook of how I could introduce this video. Here's the original hook that we're going to use for all 3. If your carrots are coming out small, you're probably experiencing this one problem. The super hook for the realistic study would be, hey, this 2024 study just came out saying that carrots grow 35% better whenever they are under drought. Well, what does that tell us? It tells us that they need consistent moisture. Whenever they're in a drought, they're 1/3 better. Okay, so here's what you need to do. You put a cardboard over the soil, it keeps the moisture in, it simulates this under drought environment. Okay, that's the realistic study super hook. The 2024 study said this, that they'll be 35% better. Okay, here's another one. If you're a gardener and you're experiencing small carrots, it's probably because of this. I was just listening to a podcast by Kevin Esperito with Epic Gardening, and he talked about putting cardboard over your soil to keep it from crusting. Okay, Kevin Esperito is I guess he's a big gardener, YouTuber, blogger. If you're in the YouTube gardening space, you probably know of Kevin Esperito, I would assume. You can pull from him. It's the same thing with pulling from an Alex Hormozi or whoever. Now, the third one you could do, and this would be the tricky one because people would have to really, really, really feel this pain. But you could say, I just planted 60 carrots and they all came out way smaller than I was expecting. So I had to do some research. Boom. You go in and you say, blah, 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 blah. I figured out that they weren't germinated long enough or whatever. It wasn't quite moist enough. And so I put cardboard on it. And guess what? Here I am. Ta-da. Okay. So let's summarize this real quick. And then I want to talk about something super important about building in public being a fraud. First, you do not need that big accolade to give people a reason to trust you, to listen to you. Now, you should not lie. I'm going to say that black and white. Black and white. You should not lie to give people reasons to listen to you. I think it is, you're cutting corners, and I've been there before. I am not perfect. I've said things online where it's like I pushed the envelope a little bit, over-exaggerated a little bit because I was insecure and I want to try to earn this click or whatever it was. And it's just like, why do you want to build a brand on that? It's not worth it. Not worth it. Don't lie. Instead, go do the hard work of pulling from somebody else. Use it wisely. Give them credit. Don't pretend like it's your own genius idea, or else you're being a scumbag. And make the video. Does that make sense? You can do that through 3 ways. pulling a realistic study. You can reference somebody famous in the space, or you can try to connect with a story about a universal emotion. Okay, now let's talk about building in public, because I think the advice that so many people, so many new creators are getting is that, hey, just build in public. No matter what, someone wants to see what you're up to. You've probably heard this before. I'm going to tell you, no, they don't. If you are building a clothing brand and you're just starting, almost nobody cares. It's not your fault. I am not trying to rip on you. It's because you haven't done anything yet, and that is okay. That is okay. If you're trying to become a fitness, or you're trying to get your physique intact, and you're on this journey, and you want to be like, my journey to losing 50 pounds, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe if you're lucky, people will start to care. But odds are, people do not care because you haven't done anything yet. Okay? There are 1 million people trying to lose weight and documenting their journey. Okay? There are 1,000 people who have put in the hard work, gotten to day 300, and can talk about it. So, I think people who give the advice of building in public before you have done anything ever, I think it is bad advice. I think it is for people who have just gotten out of the beginner phase. If you are intermediate or an advanced creator, you could maybe consider starting to share more about the build in public. If you are starting off, you should not start there. Instead, what you should do is this sentence right here. Curate in public while you build in private until people beg for what you're building. One more time. Curate. What does that mean? You talk about things that you are learning. If I consume 3 hours of content, I'm going to curate it into a 5-minute video, into a 3-minute video. Okay, I did the hard work of consuming 3 hours of content. Now I'm going to work on concisely talking about it in a 3-minute video. Okay, that's great. I'm going to curate in public while I build in private. So let's say I'm building this clothing brand, but I needed to learn about how to find a factory in China that I can source from, and I just spent 5 hours trying to find factories. I come back with my learnings, and I make a 3-minute video about what I learned about finding factories in China. I'm not telling you necessarily about the story and everything that went into that, because people don't really care yet. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but it's better to talk about it, move it forward. You do that while you build your clothing company in private until you've built your following enough where people are like, hey, what are you doing? Tell me about your clothing company. You know, what is it? Like, what does your day-to-day look like? Like, how did you do this? When did you do this? Then you start weaving in